Hello everyone and welcome back. This is your boy Ryan, back with another build guide video for the Scourge League. So 3.16 is almost coming to an end, and what better way to end the league than a cast on crit build. So here is my version of the Ice Spear Deadeye cast on crit build that will break your bank of exalts and your GPU at the same time. So buckle up and let's dive into the core of the build. I will be explaining the mechanics of the build as well as how it interacts with all the gear pieces and how you can set up your pieces of gear if you go for this build. Remember, your version of the build might be different from mine since that is the nature of all custom crit builds everywhere. I will also give you budget options to start and progress into late game bit by bit, and I will also list out some big boy upgrades for the end game that you might want to look into if you have the budget. Keep in mind it is a very expensive build and you will need at least somewhere around 30 exalt to start the build with. And with that, let's get started. So I hope you all know that what a cast on crit setup is, but for those who don't know, let me give you a quick explanation. Basically, you use a attack skill, and then when this attack skill crits on an enemy, anything or any spell that is linked with an attack will get triggered from the attack crit, but it can only trigger spells, and another attack cannot be triggered from this cast on crit setup. Usually, the Cyclone cast on crit setup is standard, and people use Cyclone as a triggering mechanic for triggering other spells. We use a different skill, and we use Lancing Steel to proc our cast on crit spells. In this case, we are using Ice Spear as our main damage skill. And mechanically, Ice Spear benefits from as many projectiles that you can add into the build. So be it volley, greater volley, or GMP, awaken GMP, anything that adds more and more projectile boosts the damage of Ice Spear by a lot. And that's why Deadeye Ascendancy is going to be the choice of class for this build. Usually where Assassin and Inquisitor, or the other one, what is that, the Witch Ascendancy, Occultist, yeah. These three are the main choices when it comes to custom crit builds, but we are gonna go with a Deadeye because Deadeye Ascendancy gives 2 free projectiles to our skills, all skills. That also includes Ice Spear in there, so that boosts the damage a lot. The downside of using Deadeye is capping crit chance. You want to get as close to 100% crit chance as possible. 90% is pretty mandatory. It's best if you get to 98%. So we cap our crit through many mechanics, and I will explain them when I get to the gear section of the build. But first, let's talk about some of the downsides of the build and what you need to expect in order to make this build proper. When you are playing cast on crit, the number one thing that you need to look out for is first the attack that you are using to trigger your spells has to have 100% accuracy, so it always hits your enemies. If you don't have 100% accuracy, it will make your damage go down by a lot. Even 99% accuracy is not acceptable. It has to be 100%. Then the next is crit chance. You need to get to at least 90%, if not 100%. And then more than 95 is very good, and 100% would be best. Other than that, the new problem that custom crit players face is the mana cost of skills, which wasn't an issue in the past, but recent leaks, GGG added the downside of custom crit that any spells that trigger from the support gem will cost mana. So previously it didn't cost mana, but now you have to manage your mana as well and make sure that you have enough mana to actually effectively trigger your spells and not run out of mana. We also solved that problem through many what should I say, jewels, support gems, everything else from passive tree as well. and we'll get into that later. First, so with that said, let's get into the gearing section and mandatory things and everything and all. So firstly, usually custom crit builds are played with Cyclone, where you need to use a 6-link setup with custom crit support gem, but we actually use a exquisite blade, a 2handed Shaper influence two-handed sword exquisite blade that has the mod Socketed Gems are supported by level 20 cast on critical strikes. That allows us to make a 7-link sword or 7-link skill setup. In this case, that is going to be our main Ice Spear and Lancing Steel setup. The benefit of using Lancing Steel is that we don't have to worry about matching our attack speed or attacks per second with our cooldown recovery rate, unlike Cyclone, where you have to be like reaching certain thresholds of attack speed depending on what cooldown recovery you have. Since Lancing Steel has a fixed attack rate, so only getting cooldown recovery, as many cooldown recovery that you can get into build will effectively increase your trigger rate for this Ice Spear, and it will allow you to deal more and more damage. Ideally, you want to use 2-skill setup for your custom crit. You actually want to trigger 2 skills at the same time, Ice Spear and Creeping Frost. That will actually boost your damage even more. But the problem that I came into it, that it was actually hurting my PC so much. It lags so much when you trigger 2 skills at the same time for the custom crit setup, that I had to actually remove the Creeping Frost and just go with Ice Spear myself. Otherwise, I couldn't even record footage for this video at all. So if you have a better PC, better internet, you can go for a 2-skill setup, but I definitely would recommend just going with a 7-link 1-spell setup for your custom crit on the sword. So this sword is going to be the base of our build. You have to get it. There is no way around it. You have to get this. You have to get this to start the build. Before I... Oh no, okay, I'll explain the skills later. First, let's talk about the stats on the sword. Exquisite Blade, you need to get the Socket Gems are supported level 20 custom crit, and you need to get at least 120% spell damage. Buy a sword, 6-link Exquisite Blade, Shaper influence with these 2 mod, and then get anything else that you can get on the blade is going to be a bonus. There aren't many like this on the market, and if you want to craft these yourself, just get a like eye level 85 or 86 Exquisite Blade with Shape influence, and then spam, I think it was Essences of O, until you get custom crit. I might be wrong about it. Just look up at Craft of Exile and which essences can trigger this critical strike mod, and just spam it until you get like spell damage and custom crit, and then you can use multi-mod, and then you get hits can be evaded mod craft on there, and that will solve your accuracy problem altogether, and you don't have to invest in any kinds of accuracy node on the passive tree, and you can invest into crit multi and other good stuff. I have this one with attack speed, which is a bonus. You don't actually need attack speed to get more procs on your custom crit. It will just make it feel good when you cast your Lancing Steel, and that's all there is to it. I crafted the critical strike multiplier with rare or unique enemies for more boss damage. A properly crafted exquisite blade can be very, very difficult, and I actually do not know how people craft those mods. There are things like chance to deal double damage. There are things like damage penetrating elemental resistances, cold resistances, more critical strike chance, critical strike multiplier, and whatnot. There are many, many stats that can come up on this blade, and they are all very, very powerful. A properly crafted blade can cost somewhere around 100 exalt to 200 exalt, or even a mirror with perfect stats. This blade I bought for 10x, and I think there are some on the market that have a bit lower stat and are also more cheap than this, like 5x or 4x even. I think I was looking for more blades, and then I saw those two, but I don't know about them now. But this is going to be very important and expensive part of the build. Next one is going to be the helmet. I have here is a Blizzard crown. This one I crafted myself. It's very easy to craft this, and they go for around like 15 to 20x a piece with the +1 maximum power charges and nearby enemies having -9 cold resistances. The process of crafting this is very easy, and also if you're crafting it, make sure you get the Blizzard crown with the Ice Spear firing an additional projectile enchant on there. The way you craft it is you first get a Redeemer helmet with only the mod nearby enemies have -9% cold resistance as the solo influence mod, and then you get a Blizzard crown of Warlord influence. You take it, you first make it rare with alchemy orb, then you use, I think, hollow fossil on it with 1 resonator to get a what was that, an abyssal socket, which I forgot to do and I ended up with this. You actually want a abyssal socket in your helmet and your boots and your armor if possible, but they are expensive, so if you can't get it, then it's not gonna matter that much. But if you are crafting your helmet, then, which is an easy process, you should actually make an abyssal socket before crafting. So make the Warlord influence helmet with an abyssal socket, then scour it, and then alteration spam it until you get maximum power charges, and then fuse the Redeemer helmet into the Blizzard crown, get the two mods together and hope that you get something good. I was really unlucky and I got all shit mods, and I was able to at least craft life in there, and I don't know what to go from this. I mean, I do not know how to craft more into this helmet after this. But Blizzard crown, fine. If you just get a Blizzard crown with Ice Spear enchant with that fires an additional projectile, it's gonna be enough for your damage. Next up is going to be the body armor. This is also important that you take the attack rate, the most important mod, the attack rate. Make sure it has at least 1.3% base attack critical strike chance for your skills or attacks. This is a source where we cap our critical strike chance. Very important. Attack rate and spell rate together if possible. Additional curse is going to be a very, very powerful mod to have, so you can apply both Sniper's Mark and Frostbite together to deal massive amounts of damage. Other than that, the fourth important mod is going to be the chance to gain a power charge on crit. This will allow us to actually use this enchant where we fire an additional projectile with Ice Spear. If you don't have the 15% chance to get a power charge on crit mod, then you have to use the other enchant for Ice Spear, which allows you to get power charges when you crit with Ice Spear. Other than that, life, percent life, and everything else is not really that great on the body armor. Like life, attack crit, spell crit, additional curse, and power charge on crit are the mods to go for. For our amulet, Pandemonious, budget option, very strong, 20% damage penetration. We don't get that much damage penetration or minus res on the build when we play. So this is going to be very, very strong. For our rings, first you want a ring with Frostbite on hit, curse enemies with Frostbite on hit. If you have the additional curse mod on your chest, then go for the Frostbite. Otherwise, use Sniper's Mark as your first curse and then Frostbite as your second one. On this one, on the rings, you want to look for life, strength, 1 resistance, and Frostbite, and then have a prefix open to craft non-channeling skills have -7 to total mana cost. This is very important. It has to be -7. It cannot be -6. It has to be -7 on both rings. It doesn't also have to be an unset ring. It can be anything. I just got this with good stats, so I got unset ring. Actually, resistance rings like 2 stone, ruby, or sapphire or topaz rings are better than this. The other ring will be life. a lot of resistances, and again open prefix to craft non-channeling skills with -7 mana cost. And of course this is a bonus stat where added cold damage against chilled and frozen enemies. That is going to be a bonus. It is not necessary. If you want to skip it, you can skip it. Make sure you get a lot of life, a lot of resistances to cap out your reses from the ring slots. For our gloves, it's going to be Aziris Acuity. This will give you Val Pact when you deal a critical strike. And since our whole build is on critical strikes, so we have Val Pact almost all the time. What Val Pact does is it disables our life regeneration, but it actually quadruples our life leech, I think, or double or quadruple, I don't remember, but it actually boosts our life leech effect to a very, very powerful amount. So our petrified blood overleech effect gets boosted a lot, and this is one of our defensive mechanics for the build. Also, it gives a lot of intelligence, which caps out our needs of getting more int on other places on our build, like passive tree or other gears. Also, it gives a lot of life as well, so it's good. Critical strike chance is always important on the build as well. For our belt, again, we want a lot of life, a lot of resistances, and of course cooldown recovery rate. If you can't afford a belt with life, a lot of resistance, and cooldown recovery rate, a shaped belt like that, then it's no problem. You can get any leather belt, which will be less expensive than a Stygian Vice. But crafting a Stygian Vice like this is very, very easy. You just have to just look out on the market with a Stygian Vice that has life and open prefixes, and then it has one open suffix and 2 resistances with T1 or T2, and then craft the increased cooldown recovery rate on the belt, and then slam it with a Redeemer's Orb, Redeemer's Exalted Orb, and this will give you one of the 3 mods that are on the belts for the Redeemer, which is going to be, I think, increased cold damage, evasion rating, and then one more. All of the 3 mods that Redeemer can put on the belt are good, so there is no bad mods on this, and Redeemer slamming is going to be a good choice on the belt. For our jewel, or the Abyss Jewel, you want to get life, cooldown recovery rate, and global crit multi. 3% increased cooldown recovery rate plus life and global crit multi. Abyss Jewels are very expensive. I don't know why. Just buy one with 2% and you're gonna be fine. For our boot slot, we want again movement speed, of course resistances if we can, life, and the 2 important mods here are going to be chance to get elusive on crit and chance to gain onslaught on kill. If you can't afford a boot like this, this wasn't very expensive. I think this was like 5 or 6 exalt. So if you can't afford something like this, buy a boot with life, movement speed, 1 res, and elusive, which is gonna be somewhere around I think 100 to 150 chaos or 2x maximum. And then make sure it has a open prefix, right? Yeah, open prefix, and then craft your own onslaught and movement speed mod on there. And you don't even have to get movement speed if you buy something like that. You just have to get something with life, resistances, and elusive, and then you craft your own movement speed plus onslaught on kill effect on there. For the enchant, I didn't get anything good from lab running. The 120% increased critical strike chance if you haven't crit recently would be amazing. Other than that, damage penetrates a certain amount of elemental resistance if you haven't killed recently will be very strong against bosses. So that's the conclusion of the gear. Now for our flask, we want a life flask. I got it with corrupted blood immunity. You want a diamond flask. I am still looking for the crit chance craft from the order bench or the syndicate bench, so I have the open suffix on my diamond flask. I also instilling orbed it to automatically trigger it when I'm fighting bosses. I also recommend you do that because pressing flasks every time is kind of bad, and we have a lot of skills to press as well. Then I have a Jade Flask with immunity to freeze. If you if you get a chill immunity and chill and freeze immunity on your boots, then you don't need it. But then otherwise get a freeze immunity flask and instilling orb to use when you become frozen automatically. So that's gonna be a lifesaver when you open like strong boxes and stuff. Our fourth flask would be a Dying Sun. I also instilled it to have automatically trigger with rare or unique enemies when you hit them. And then our last one is going to be a Quicksilver Flask for more movement. For bossing setup, I think a Bottle Fate on this slot will be extremely good, but that's also very high budget. And so that is gonna be it for the gear setup. So as I was talking before, capping crit chance on this build is difficult because we are not assassin and we're not scaling power charges either. So we have to get a lot of base crit. We get our base crits from the assassin garb, or not assassin garb, but we all get our crit chance capped through our body armor with attack crit, and then we use a Hatred Watcher Sight to cap more crit because we get the increased base critical strike chance when we are under the effect of hatred. This two together caps our crit chance with a lot of increased critical strike chance from our passive tree and everywhere else. So let's look at the skill setup next. So Lancing Steel, here is the thing. Let me demonstrate how it looks first. So when you cast Lancing Steel, it like fires these steel shard projectiles. This hit, and when they crit, they trigger your Ice Spear. So normally if you cast this, this only fires for like less than a second and like fires 2 or 3 projectiles before it ends. Also, when you use Lancing Steel, it gives you an extra secondary skill automatically when you use this, and it is called Call of Steel. So when you use it, it summons 3 steel shards on your back, which gives you a total of 12 steel shard charges. When you use Lancing Steel with the steel shard charges up, if you use them, it consumes 4 charges, and then it constantly fires for a longer time. So this is automatic attack as well. Also automatic spell cast from this. So we can fire 3 of them, and then they will constantly fire on our enemies, and that attacks when they crit, which is almost 100% of the time, and they will keep casting the Ice Spear from our setup. So the playstyle for this is going to be you summon your steel shards, you throw them away, they constantly trigger. After you cast this 3 times, you press your Call of Steel again to resummon your steel shards and then start casting again. In tight situations, you might like forget about these, but try to maintain your playstyle with steel shards and Lancing Steel together. Is somewhere like playing with a gun, I would say. Like you have to reload your gun before you're firing it, and that will deal more damage and stuff like that. So that's Lancing Steel. And then we have Cast on Crit from our blade. So that triggers the Link spell, which is going to be Ice Spear in this case. The other support gems we have are GMP. As I said, more projectile equals a lot more damage. GMP adds 4 projectiles. If you get Awaken GMP, it fires 5 projectiles, which is a big boost to our damage. Then the other one is going to be Awaken added cold damage. Try to get an Awaken version of the cold damage, because at level 5 of this support gem, it will actually increase the level of Ice Spear by 1, making it 22, which is going to be again another big boost. Next one is going to be Inspiration, and we are going to be using Divergent Inspiration. It is mandatory that you use Divergent Inspiration because it reduces the mana cost of linked skills by 10%. So That will reduce the Ice Spear mana cost by a lot. And our last support gem is going to be increased critical damage support. So that will add a 149% crit multi, which is huge because this build always crits, so we always get this extra damage. So that is going to be our main skill setup. Next up is our primary aura setup for our damage, which is going to be Hatred and Herald of Ice. Oh no, this is the second aura. Never mind. First, primary aura for our mana setup is going to be Hatred, Grace, and Petrified Blood linked to Enlighten support. Level 4 is ideal, level 3 is alright, but you have to get an Enlighten. We use Hatred for damage and of course capping our crit chance with Watcher's Eye, which is also a mandatory item by the way. Grace for more evasion rating, so this is our defensive source. And then Petrified Blood is also a defensive source. Petrified Blood cuts our life in half, but it reduces the damage we take from one hit, and then the rest of the damage is taken over time, which gets negated because we have insane life leech. Other than that, our secondary auras are going to be used with arrogant support. So we reserve half of our life and we go pain attunement for low life. That way we boost another 30% damage. So on our blood auras, we have Herald of Ice, Vitality, and Precision. Try to get a level 21 Precision. It's not very expensive and it's going to be really great to cap out our crit chance. And also if you get a proper crafted blade where hits can't be evaded mod is not there, then level 21 precision will give you the much needed accuracy to cap out your hit chance as well. So that's another thing. So very good if you get a level 21 precision. Other than that, I have a summon Ice Golem for more accuracy and crit chance, and that's about it. But vitality is not necessary. If you want, you can stop using it. This is used to trigger a mod on the Watcher side. More on that later when I talk about the passive tree in general. So that's gonna be the aura setups. Our utility setup here is going to be Hydrosphere, Arcane Surge, Bone Chill. I seldom use this actually, but I don't even know how to actually trigger Hydrosphere properly yet. I might try to manually use it. If you have the key, if you have more keybinds, you can definitely try using Hydrosphere together, but it's not necessary for me yet. Like I shred bosses anyways, so but it will give you bone chill buff if you start using it though. Or another way you can apply bone chill buff is going to be through using frost blink. If you use frost blink, you can actually travel, use that as a travel skill, and frost blink creates a chilling area which will apply the bone chill effect on the bosses. In that case, you will not need to use flame dash at but I mean it will go in cooldown, so you don't need to use it then. And our last utility skills are gonna be defensive. We use Steel Skin and Sniper's Mark. We have to cast this manually, no other way. And Sniper's Mark is the biggest boost, so this is going to be your primary curse, and the secondary will be Frostbite. We link both of these with increased duration for longer duration on our Steel Skin and Mark, and efficacy support. This increases skill effect duration. I didn't know that. So it works with Steel Skin and Sniper's Mark. So my Steel Skin that is supposed to be 1.5 seconds is now actually 2.84 seconds with this efficacy support, and it's gonna go to 3 seconds I think if I max these two out. So I didn't know that, and it's great. So any kind of guard skill that you use, if you use it manually, I think increased duration and efficacy support are nice to have in there. And that is gonna be it for the all the linked skills for the build. Okay, now next up is going to be the ascendancy and passive tree. This is gonna be big. So we have a lot of stuff going in here. Clusters, timeless jewels, and a lot of masteries as well. So let's get to them first. We are going to be a Deadeye, a ranger Deadeye, ascendancy first. In terms of ascendancies choices, we go Ricochet first for skills chain 1 additional time, and then Endless Munition for 2 additional projectiles. This is the main reason why we go Deadeye instead of Assassin or Occultist or Inquisitor. Then our third ascendancy is going to be Tailwind. Gathering Winds is extremely potent. It actually boosts Tailwind effect to the moon. Like, it's better than Elevated Tailwind. So this is going to be the third ascendancy. And then lastly, we have Focal Point. This increases mark effect by 75%, which is a huge boost for damage. And that is the ascendancy choices 1, 2, 3, and 4th lab. Okay, next up is the passive tree, of course. So we start from the ranger upper side of the tree, and then we go down here, grabbing all the life nodes, projectile nodes, and spell suppression nodes, going into the life side of the tree, and then we get life mastery here with plus 50 maximum life. We go up, crit multis and crit chance masteries. This is going to be 25% crit multi against unique enemies. This is boss DPS. Then we get this one, survivalist. This one is really good because it gives us early res and cold res and max cold res as well. And evasion rating also allows us to use the evasion mastery. With Grace has increased mana reservation efficiency, so we can actually run Grace. In this spot, we use a Lethal Pride. You want to get with the Calm, Commandant Leadership over Warriors under Calm. This will transform the Phase Acro node into Strength of Blood. This is your final form of defense when you have the proper Watcher Sai. So if you get a Watcher Sai with Hatred crit mod and then a life gain on hit vitality mod, then you can use this and disable your life leech, so you take less damage for every 2% life recovery rate from your leech, which we have a lot. We have a very strong leech effect, so that translates into less damage taken, but we still leech our life through the life gain on hit on vitality. Those Watcher Sai are like 80 to 100x. They're not even in the market most of the time. So when you get one of those, you can disable your leech through Strength of Blood, and it will be extremely powerful in terms of your defense. That makes you close to immortal, kind of. When you're also buying Lethal Pride, buy it from TFT and not the market, and they sell a lot of Lethal Prides. Like, I got this one for 6x that has 3 chance to deal double damage, one on this node, one on this node, and one on the quick step, this node here. So a 15% chance to deal double damage. Even if you get 2 of these, like 10% chance to deal double damage, it will be nice. But if you are on a budget, get one. That will cost you like 1x or 1.5x. So other good mods that you can look for are increased strength, resistances if you can. I don't have them here anyway. So remember that the nodes that you're gonna get is here. This one, Heartseeker, Survivalist, Herbalism, Intuition, and Quickstep. These are the 5 nodes that you're gonna allocate in this slot. So when you're buying, make sure that you buy it with screenshots, like ask for screenshots on every node on these 5 nodes and what it is giving. Okay, then after this part, we go up here for a cluster setup. Our large cluster in here is going to be Corrosive Elements, Deep Chill, and Doriani's Lesson. Ideally, you want Corrosive Elements, Blanketed Snow, and Doriani's Lesson. I did not find any on the market with this or that combination. So this is the second best, cheapest option that was available, and I took it. For secondary stats on your clusters, you want elemental resistances and attributes, mainly strength on the clusters, so you can actually cap out your strength needs. For our medium cluster, all 4 are going to be the same. It's going to be precise retaliation and pressure points for all of your medium clusters. Again, for your secondary stat, Try to look for dex, strength, or resistances when you're buying medium clusters like Elides, Chaos Res, Fire Res, whatever. Uh, that is going to be the clusters. So precise retaliation and pressure points are important because precise retaliation gives 60% increased critical strike chance if you haven't blocked recently. We have zero investment in block. We don't block our attacks or any incoming attacks. So we always have 4 precise retaliation with 240% increased critical strike chance. This is our number one way of capping crit chances. And pressure points, again, your critical strikes have 5% chance to deal double damage. We always crit, so we again have 20% more damage on, more damage, but we have 20% chance to deal double damage from 4 pressure point clusters. And combining with this Lethal Pride over here, we have a total of 35% chance to deal double damage. This works through crit multi. So if you have like 450% crit multi like I do, it's gonna be 35% of the time you're gonna be doing 900% crit multi damage, which is insane. And upwards of here, you want to grab the Blood Drinker node and the Life Mastery with increased life and less life recovery rate, and also this small node on life and mana on hit. I will explain this in a bit. Other than that, you want to grab all of these nodes for more accuracy and crit chances. Other than that, the passive tree goes up on from the assassin side. We also take the mana reservation efficiency from here, and we take the 30% increased life reservation efficiency of skills, so we can actually reserve our life and not actually go somewhere around like 90% reservation of our lives through our aura reservations. We also get the jewel socket. Then we go up on the assassin side, we grab this free crit multi, crit chance as well. And then we grab Pain Attunement, all of the life nodes, and the jewel socket. Go up over here for another cluster setup. The cluster setup here for the large cluster will be Doriani's Lesson, Prismatic Heart, and Blast Freeze. You can argue, or not argue, but if you want more damage and you already capped your resistances from other sources, you can look for a Blanketed Snow, Doriani's Lesson, and Blast Freeze cluster over here as well. For our mediums, it's gonna be the same precise retaliation, pressure points with some resistances like Elides and Fire Lightning Res over here. And the rest of the tree, we grab Leaf Shade over here. With our Petrified Blood, we are pretty tanky. We don't die to one hits that much, but damage over time is going to be brutal for this. So we have to grab Leech Shade, so we take less damage over time. And this is going to be a lifesaver against dots like Burning Grounds or Caustic Grounds, Shaper Beams, and other damage over time effects in the build, not in the game. We also grab the life nodes over here, and we grab this node. Snowforge is buffed and it's amazing. Enemies ignited or chilled by you have minus 5% to Elides. So this is a free 5% penetration, because we always chill our enemies. And the Elemental Mastery, where exposures we inflict, that will apply at least minus 18% to the affected resistance, which is cold in our case because we apply cold exposure through corrosive elements over here, where cold skills have a 25% chance to apply cold exposure on hit. So cold exposure does minus 10%, but since with this mastery we apply at least minus 18, so through this we apply minus 18% resistance for our enemies. And that is most of the masteries for our passive tree. Now for the jewels, especially first, the Watcher's Eye. Extremely important that you get the critical strike chance while affected by hatred mod. This is the only mandatory mod when you're buying Watcher's Eye. Anything after this, like a double hatred mod, is good, but the best would be hatred mod and life gain on hit while affected by vitality. That will allow you to go strength of blood and give yourself a lot of tankiness. So that is going to be about it for the Watcher's Eye. For our jewels, you want to get a Replica Conqueror's efficiency for the minus mana cost, minus 9 mana cost. Initially, without any mana cost reduction, I think Ice Spear will cost somewhere around like 40 or 50 mana. So Replica Conqueror's efficiency, and then jewels like this, which have 5% reduced mana cost of skills. You buy jewels with global crit multi, life, and minus mana cost or reduced mana cost of skills. You buy jewels like this, 1, 2, 3, and 4 jewels like this. Together, these 4 jewels and Replica Conqueror's efficiency will lower the mana cost of Ice Spear down to 10 mana. And if you use 2 skill setup, which is going to be Creeping Frost and Ice Spear together, in that case, Ice Spear will cost 2 mana and Creeping Frost will cost like 3 mana, I think. When you do that, with this setup, life and mana on hit, you're gonna get +2 mana back whenever your Lancing Steel hits. So you actually will never run out of mana, and that will solve the problem of mana cost in the cast on crit setups. And that is most of the, I think, passive tree for the build. So what left? Oh yeah, budget options. I almost forgot. For budget options, the sword is not budgetable. You have to get it. It's gonna be like 5x. For the body armor, helmet together, if you're just starting out, you can use Farul's Bite and Farul's Fur together. You have to use both of them. So you can reserve Aspect of the Cat for free, and then under the effect of Aspect of the Cat, you're gonna get 1% base crit of attack base crit and spell crit from your Farul's Bite helmet. So both of them together will be really strong if you are just starting out. For your rings, you don't have to get Frostbite, just get life resistances and non-channeling skill mana cost. They are not very expensive, like 20-30 chaos a piece of ring, that if you go for those, single curse setup that is. Because you won't have access to double curse in that build anyway. For your amulet, Pandemonius is 30 chaos, it's very cheap. Aziri's Acuity, also very cheap. Just get a leather belt for 100 chaos with life resistance as a cooldown recovery rate. A shape build, non-shape build, it doesn't matter. Any type of cooldown recovery, like 15% is good enough. For your boots, you don't have to get Onslaught, just get Elusive and you are good to go. Other pieces of gear are not very mandatory. I mean, other pieces of expensive gear is not mandatory to start with. Just the sword is going to be expensive part. Also, Awakened gems are expensive. Just go for normal version of the gems in this case. You don't even have to get Anomalous Lancing Steel first. I don't know what's the price of them right now. I think I bought them for 30 chaos, so you can just go with normal one. This increases the range of attacks, which helps casting skills more. That's just it. And that is going to be most of the build, I think. Yeah, that is, I think I covered most of it. If you still have questions about the build or you are getting into trouble setting up your custom kit, make sure you PM me on Discord or PM me, make a comment on the video, and I will try to answer all of you. And that is going to be it for this video. I think I covered most of it. Yeah. Oh yeah, about big boy upgrades, everything you see here, the big boy upgrades are going to be the elevated version of everything you see here. That's it. That's the big boy upgrade. Nothing else. Okay. So that is going to be end for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed this cast on crit setup. And let me know what your thoughts are on this. And I will see you on the next video, which is going to be about the builds that can clear the recent December events that are about to be starting from next week. So, cheers guys. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.